there are not very many questions in the SAT that are just about how to use a question mark, mostly because I think this is a fairly easy rule that if you just know what a question mark does, it asks a question, it should be easy to hear the right answer. Obviously, though, we can tell that that's what they're testing because 2 of the choices have that question mark. You can also see the wording is changing. The fact that where is before this blank is telling me that it probably is going to be a question, so I'm kind of leaning in that direction. But this might be one of the rare cases where I kind of have to read all the answer choices and see how they sound. So let's just do that. Choice A, where did the word chortle come from? Well, if I said that, then that would be a question, right? I'm asking, where did it come from? That should have a question mark at the end. So the problem is this ends in a period. It's making it a statement. It is a question. So no. Choice B, where the word chortle did come from. It sounds like I had a stroke. That's kind of maybe a question, but it sounds like, I don't know, some weird version of English. This is not a normal way to ask a question. Where the word chortle did come from. If you picked this, I'm sorry, your English probably isn't as good as you think. This just makes 0 sense if you know English. So get better at reading in English and listening to television shows and stuff, and you'll hear the language and pick up on that. But let's try C. Where did the word chortle come from? Notice that is the exact same thing as choice A, but now they fixed the problem and they put the question mark at the end. So this is almost certainly the answer, but let's just double check. Let's see what D says. Where the word chortle come from? Again, that's kind of maybe a question, but not using all the right words, so no. And plus, even if it were a question, it's ending in a period. So it doesn't make sense. It needs to, if it's a question, then it's got to end in a question mark. So hopefully, when I say, something is a question and needs to end in a question mark, that's just intuitive for you. I don't really know how to explain that beyond just, a question has a certain sound, right? It's asking for something. It kind of has that rhythm in English where it kind of goes up at the end, right? Where did the word chortle come from? Can you hear it? It's different than the next thing, which is just a normal sentence. Interestingly, it was invented by an author, right? Who invented it? Who is the author, right? That's a question. It first appears in the novel Through the Looking Glass by English author Lewis Carroll. All right, do you hear the difference? I mean, a question has that kind of like, the way you talk at the end is kind of moving up. You're kind of expecting someone to answer you, whereas a sentence just kind of ends in more of a downward kind of like, all right, the thought is over. I don't know, maybe I'm just making things up, but I've been speaking English and only English all my life. So for me to tell the difference between a question and not is really, really simple. So if you are struggling with this, well, it is a sound thing, and I'm hoping that through practice you can get there, but a lot of it is just going to come from you strengthening your English ability. But just because they ask about the question mark does not always mean we need a question mark. So pay attention to the situation, pay attention to how that blank relates to things around it. There will be times where they make something question-like, they use words like ask or where, but they don't actually use it in a way that is a question. They are making a statement, in which case we would use a period. But overall, question marks, very rare in the SAT. You're really not going to see a lot of questions involving this.